cold, snowy day in Colorado. Alright, quick video. Pat and Kevin Williams are suspended. I'm sure you know. They're fighting it and back at practice. But it's a 4-game suspension, and I feel like unless they can delay this to the off-season completely, they should just start their suspension now. Here's why. If the Vikings beat the Lions, and they should, the Bears or Packers would have to win out in order for Minnesota to not clinch the division. I had a look at the tiebreakers, and Minnesota's 7-5 right now. They beat the Lions, they go to 8-5. And all they would have to do then is win one of their final 3 games. And that's at Arizona, home against Atlanta, and home against Giants. Arizona can't threaten the interior run very well, so it's not important to have Kevin and Pat Williams. The Giants will probably be resting their starters, so that game is more winnable than it looks on paper. And the game against Atlanta, that's a talented team, but it's at home. So I would think out of those 3, Minnesota could win 1. If they do that and beat the Lions, the only way they could possibly lose the division is if the Bears go 10-6 by winning their final 4 games, or the Packers go 9-7 by winning their final 4 games. So yeah, Minnesota goes 2-2 in the last 4, including the win over the Lions. Green Bay or Chicago has to go 4-0, and I don't see that happening. Now, if Kevin and Pat Williams only delay their suspension by 1 week, then they can play against the terrible Lions and be suspended for Arizona, Atlanta, New York, and the first game of the playoffs, which is looking like a possibility that the Vikings might have a chance to play that game. So them delaying the suspension is really making me nervous. I kind of hope I don't see them play this Sunday and that their suspension has started. So there we go. As far as beating the Lions, a lot of people say a few years ago, I think it was 2001, the Lions were 0-12 and Minnesota went to Detroit and lost. But that was the Minnesota team that went 5-11 that year. They were bad. The Lions were worse, but the Vikings were bad. This year the Vikings are good, and the Lions are terrible, historically bad. If you look up their defensive rank, they're 32nd in a lot of categories. And if they're not 32nd, they're 30th or 31st. I just don't see Detroit playing another good defensive game against Minnesota like they did earlier in the year. Chester Taylor ought to be able to beat their defense alone. And when you got Adrian Peterson and Burke and Hutchinson and McKinney in the mix, and not to mention a couple of Farrat to Berrien passes, maybe a Visante Shenko touchdown. There's no reason for the Vikings to lose this game. So, Kevin and Pat Williams, a message for you. If you can get rid of the suspension completely, that's ideal. But a very good plan B is to start your suspension now. Otherwise, you're making a whole lot of Vikings fans real nervous about that first game in the playoffs. Alright, that's all I got for now. Thanks for watching. Leave comments below if you'd like. And I'll talk to you later. See ya.